Hey there, it's Crystal. Hi, it's Crystal from All Bodies Welcome Electrolysis here in Campbell, California. Guess what? Today, Santa Clara County moved into the red tier. So that means in our area we can start working on faces and all kinds of fun stuff. So we're gonna be rocking and rolling soon. I'm so excited today. I'm gonna be interviewing Audrey Jones. Audrey's a fellow electrologist. She's been doing this a little bit longer than me. I'm pretty new to this, and then I have that 1 year off because of that damn pandemic. But she is an educator and electrologist, and I'm going to have her introduce herself so we all know how to find her. But you're a licensed electrologist and licensed esthetician.
Yes, I am. My
L-E-L-E.
name's my name's Audrey Jones, and I work in Vancouver, Washington at my practice Pacific Northwest Electrology. But I also have recently gotten into creating education for electrologists and then also possibly developing some courses for beginner electrologists. That business is called Pulse Therm. It's on Instagram, electrolysis_educator. You can find more info at pulsetherm.com. But yeah, basically, I've been doing electrolysis for over 2 years now, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And I want all of you, if you're interested in becoming an electrologist, to do it. We need more of you.
We sure do. Yeah. Audrey and I were just talking before we started recording about how desperate we are in both of our areas for more electrologists and how we're not afraid. Bring them on. We need a lot more because there's so few of us and there's so much demand. And it's a great, I mean, here, everybody gets about $130 an hour. And when I first opened in October 15th, 2019, I couldn't believe how fast my calendar filled up. I was like, people would bet, please, please, please get me in today, and I would work. I overdid it, but
Yep.
I would see 8 to 10 people in a day, and some of them wanted 45 minutes to an hour of work, and it was a lot. And I was like, holy crap, that happened fast. But
Yeah.
you hang a tile up
It's
and you're on.
I'd be almost willing to bet money for every new electrologist in the next 5 to 10 years that within the year or 2 years of from them starting, they'll be completely booked with the wait list. I'm almost like willing to bet as long as you put in the work, the clients are there. They will come. And as far as rates, yeah, across the country, I'm seeing electrolysis is anywhere between $100 to $200 an hour. And just with the way the world's working right now, I anticipate that's going to be just steadily increasing
I
every
think
single year.
so. Yeah, even I had one of my clients tell me over the weekend. She was asking when I'm going to come back to work, and she said, Crystal, you need to raise your rates." I was like, I'll think about it. I know what she's saying though, because we have to make so much more time. We have to take a little more break in between clients and so much more time
Yes.
sanitizing. And, we missed a year of work. So that kind of really put us behind the eight ball in
Yep.
saving for our retirement and things like that. But yeah, there's plenty for all of us. So some of the things, first of all, I love two things about my business. I just told you this. I love working on my clients. I love my clients so much. And I love marketing my business. So what were some of the first things you did when you first started your business? You had your location, you were ready to rock and roll. How did you jump out there and get everybody to know about you?
I'll give you a couple examples. I am putting together a social media marketing course at pulsetherm.com, which is going to include like my entire personal journey of everything I did. But I'm going to give you a couple ideas for anyone that's watching this that's a new electrologist or even like a new person in the aesthetics industry and you're a solo entrepreneur and you're like, how do I market myself without spending $1 million? The first thing is doing Google ads, especially for electrolysis. There's not many of us, so you want your name to go to the top of the list for people to see when they Google electrolysis, whatever area. So I set my limit to like $50, which is the minimum. And after a year of doing that, I had to turn it off completely because I was getting too many responses from those Google ads. I would not set your budget more than $50 a month because they'll spend it, but they'll spend it immediately, but you're going to get the same amount of response, let me tell you.
Yeah.
The other thing that you can do that's really smart in the same sense of Google advertising or search engine advertising is when you choose a name for your business, choose a name that includes your locale, meaning the city that you're working in. So if I had to go back and do things over, I might not have chosen Pacific Northwest Electrolysis. I would have chosen Vancouver, Washington Electrolysis. Just so that's that extra little like Vancouver Electrolysis search engine pulls up Vancouver, Washington Electrolysis. So those would be two things I totally recommend. Google ads really help me. And then I guess one more little tidbit is just finding the time to go talk to people, whether it's businesses in the area that you're working in,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's other estheticians, networking and finding people that can give you referrals is going to pay off in the long run. It might not be an immediate thing. It's going to be, oh, if you want electrolysis, there was a girl that talked to me like a year ago. Her name's Audrey,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and she works at
Yep.
Pacific Northwest Electrology. You should go call her. So,
Exactly.
there's not a lot of electrologists. And once you kind of make those connections with people, they'll remember your name.
I'm a big believer in in-person networking. Not that we could do any in-person networking this past year, although a lot of the networking groups that I belong to moved online. But one of
Yeah.
my favorite tips, and that I educate and because I do a little bit of small business consulting and stuff, is I tell people use your Google My Business page. So
Yes.
when you open up a business and you go claim your business from Google, kind of like you claim your business from Yelp, although I know Yelp is much more controversial. I claimed my business, and my business is called All Bodies Welcome Hair Removal. And whenever I write a blog, I share it on my Google My Business page. Whenever I take
Yes.
a photo of a client and they give me permission, I put my watermark on it and I share it on my Google My Business page. And I say, Electrology Permanent Hair Removal in Campbell, because that's the city I'm in. Because I think you're right. Our businesses are so very local focused. We have to think about local search engine optimization and
Yeah.
local search ads because, yeah. And then Facebook too, and Instagram, of course, those are all great places. But Google My Business, here's what interesting kind of, I guess you would call it like a case study. But so I opened my business October 15th, 2019. My partner, we share the same address. She's one of my friends. She does the same business I do, but she's been doing it for 28 years. Because I post so regularly to my Google My Business, suddenly in search, I'm above her. And
Yeah.
she's been doing this for 28 years. So I jumped up in the search engine rankings just because I regularly post to Google My Business. So
Yes. Yeah.
love that tool.
It's the regular post too. It doesn't have to be anything super curated. It's just share what's going on with your business. And people want to see that because that means you're real and
I think
you are
so.
active.
Because like if let's say you want to get some new floors for your office and you start looking for a flooring company, and there's like 20 flooring companies here in the Bay Area where I live, and I go and I usually go check to see their social media, and I go, oh, they post once in a while to Instagram, or they post once in a while to the Facebook page. To me, that just seems like, okay, I'm still in business. I'm a little more contemporary. I'm keeping up with things, which means to me they might have more contemporary materials and more contemporary installation. I think it's just important that people see, yeah, Audrey gets it. She's on Facebook, Instagram, she's on YouTube. Like that's the kind of electrologist I want to see. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to see somebody who's been doing it for 30 years and doesn't even have a website, which is very common in our business.
It is really common. Or having identical websites. That is another thing that is just a buzzkill. And I've had a lot of feedback from clients when they check out people's websites and there's like everyone has the same template website, and then they
I know what
come
you're
and they
talking about.
and they tell me like, oh my gosh, your website looked like you're a real person. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
am.
You know what? The thing is with people, they want to do business with people.
Yeah.
People don't do businesses with websites. People don't do businesses with really cool logos. They do business with people. So they want to see you. They want to see your face. They want to know who they're getting ready to do business with. And honestly, the most difficult thing about electrology or coming to get an electrolysis done is the first appointment,
Yeah.
right? Once you get someone through the door the first time, I don't know about you, but I know they're going to be mine forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the first appointment is so scary because if you've never done it, you don't know all these things. Is it going to hurt? Is it going to be okay? And if they can see your face and they can see how you speak and how you work and what makes you laugh, then they feel like, okay, I'm going to go do business with a human that I relate to, and maybe she won't be mean,
Well, and I take it even a step further too. All my consultations are all via phone. So I
Oh,
have them submit all their paperwork online and I do a phone call and I go over a checklist of things that, the most common questions, and allow them to ask their questions before they even see me in person. And they can get like a touch of my personality because
sure,
sometimes I
yeah.
just go off on like random tangents and I'm
Me
like,
too.
where was I? Okay, I don't know. But they
Yeah.
get kind of a taste of my personality before we even meet in person. And then when I see them for the first time, it's like we've already met. And now
Yes.
here's the hard part of like, okay, this is what it's going to feel like. I get to see how your hair looks and I can kind of come up with that custom, like, this is where we're going to start for your treatment plan. it makes it a little bit easier that way too. But for sure, the first appointment is always nerves, and especially if you haven't had electrolysis before. And then once you find out, like, yeah, it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Not even close.
This person isn't horrible to hang out with, so it'll be
Right.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, there are some people that I've met that I'm like, I don't really want to work on them, because maybe we have different politics or something. That was more, that's over for now. So that was like, I don't think I can do this, because sometimes, being with somebody for that long of a period of time, it's very personal, it's very intimate, and we're working on your face or your bikini line or your underarms, and we're going to be like in the same room, like within the same bubble for a long period of time, between 15 minutes to an hour or longer. You have to like each other, because if
Right.
you
Yeah.
don't, it's no
Well, it's
fun.
energy work. It's all about, this is one of the jobs, one of the very few jobs where people give us permission to touch them.
Yeah.
And it's very personal, it's very intimate, and not in like a sexual way or anything like that.
No.
It's more like if someone gives you permission to touch their face or touch their
Yeah.
skin, it's very vulnerable.
Yes.
And yeah, you can definitely, like, when you're touching somebody, you're transferring energy back and forth.
Sure.
And if
Can't
they're in a
help it.
bad place or if they're not vibing with you, you get some of that energy and it doesn't always feel good. So that would definitely be one thing I recommend for new electrologists or new people in the aesthetics world, is try to find ways to protect your energy, whether
Yeah.
it's setting your boundaries
Boundaries.
for behavior, or setting boundaries for time. Maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes is the max that you can work. That's okay. You can choose that. You don't have to do anything longer than what you want to do.
I
So
don't I don't I don't even like working more than an hour anyway on people. It's too much for me. I
I
prefer to do.
creep down from 4 to 3 to 2 hours. Like I
Yeah.
can't believe I used to offer 4 hour sessions.
I could do it, but I have to have a break in the middle. But I have to at least have a half an hour break.
Yeah,
So what inspired you to get into electrolysis? How did you come about upon it?
it's like the least satisfying story ever, but then in the same sense, it's like satisfying because it's not satisfying.
Right, yeah.
Um, like the only way I found out about electrolysis is my mom goes, I had some electrolysis done. And I was like, what is electrolysis? Because that sounds weird. So I go to the YouTube and I Google electrolysis and I see videos of like this super satisfying metal probe
Yes.
inserting to a hair
Mm,
follicle and then
love
the
it.
hair coming
Mm,
out. And all I can think is like that would really satisfy the part of my personality that has like attention to detail. And I could totally do this. Like I am mind over matter. Like let's get this done. So that was it. That literally was just my mom saying I had electrolysis, and I see a video of electrolysis, and I'm like, that's it. That's for me.
It's a very satisfying work. My boyfriend was my model when I went to school, and because my teacher Randa and Robert said it's better to bring a man because their hair is so much more coarse and their pores and their follicles are larger, and they're not really checking technique that much when you go to take the state board exam. They just want to see that you're following the directions. And
And
so
safety and sanitation. Yeah, it's one of the most
mostly
important things.
it's honest to God, it's almost all about safety and sanitation. And
Yeah.
anyway, he was like, I get why you like this because it's so satisfying. I was like, oh babe. And he's a person that loves to watch that pimple popper show. I don't like that show. I think it's disgusting, but it's like satisfying. Like I think Dr. Pimple Popper is satisfied, right? You get to
Yeah.
get so many hairs out. You get to see all the work you did. You can
Yeah.
see all the hairs, and you sometimes the clients want to see it, and you're like, oh, look at all the hairs we
Oh
have
yeah.
today, and they
Oh yeah.
love it. They want to take pictures of it. It's like, oh man, it's so satisfying. I got inspired to do this because my friend Sarah, who's next door, she was an electrologist, and I was looking for a new career. And she's like, come do this, come work with me, come work in my office. And now she's going to work in my office. But I always wondered, like, why did I wait so long to go? Because I had to remove my goatee, and I had a very lush neck beard. And it was like, it was like random coarse black hairs. Of course, I have a very fuzzy blonde, fuzzy neck, but she got rid of the coarse hairs, and
Yeah.
she got rid of the kitty whiskers for me. But I thought it's going to be so expensive. It's going to take so much time. And I thought I was going to have to buy like a package. And she's like, no. And, in the beginning, my appointments were about a half an hour long. And then after that, they were like 10 minutes. So I just bring some cash. I'm like, okay, here's $30. Here's
Yeah.
40 bucks. Easy peasy. I had myself so afraid about electrolysis. And I was like, it doesn't even hurt. It barely hurts. And I would sometimes, like, if I had a lot of lip hair, I would take a Motrin before I went to see her. But like, I'm a wuss too. I'm such a big baby. When I get my nails done, I'm like, and so like I can take electrolysis. I don't know. I had it worked up in my head. It's going to hurt so bad.
Every single one of my clients that comes in for their first treatment, I always, right after we're done and I'm putting things away into the sharps bin and cleaning up,
Hmm.
and I go, what did you think of today's session? And 99% of people always say, you know, it sucked, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. That's
It's not a
exactly
party,
what they say, word for
right?
word.
It's not a
But
party. It's definitely not a party. But for me, when I started seeing the progression, and I was like, oh, and like today we were doing some stuff here, and I had two little whiskers, and I said, because I'm 53 and I'm who knows? So two random whiskers decided to just start growing. And so she
yeah,
took them out today and I was like, oh, I miss that feeling. But the
yeah,
best part about it is that I know that no more hair is going to grow back there. Now, you know, of course, it's not 100%, right? I mean, I am 53 and I just had a hysterectomy and, things happen. I have a lot more testosterone going on in my body. So I might pop out a few new whiskers, but it doesn't mean she didn't do a great job. It just means my hormones are going a little crazy.
well, we're born with a set amount of hair follicles,
A
and not
million,
all
right?
those hair follicles are going to be producing a thicker, coarse hair at any given time. So
Yep.
it is totally and completely understandable that even after electrolysis on the face, you will have coarse
Mm-hmm.
hair or thick hairs or medium coarse hairs eventually pop up over time. And it's not the same follicle. It's definitely a different follicle.
Really.
Just has become accelerated due to the hormonal shifts. So for
Yeah.
sure, that's totally understandable.
But
I
people
have to
always
tell you
think
a
it's
funny story though.
people always think it's the same hair, and I'm like, no, no, sister, don't touch it for like 6 weeks, and then you tell me how
Yeah.
many hairs are there. But yeah, tell your story.
Oh yeah. No, that's like they're like next door neighbor hairs.
They're so close.
But funny story about your model story about taking a guy to your state board test, and I
Yeah.
took my husband to be
Uh,
my model as well. And I just remember telling him, I was like, I don't care if it hurts. I don't care if you are upset. Do not make a face until we're
yes.
out of there, and then you can say whatever you want to say. I just remember being like, don't say anything.
The first time we did a test on my boyfriend. No, my boyfriend is he's a little quirky. He so we drive down to the school just for a practice test, and he lets out the loudest yelp after one hair, and I was like, oh my god, did it really hurt that bad? He goes, well, no. I go, how long did it hurt? Well, like 1 second. And I'm all,
And you screamed.
he's like, well, I'm like, babe, you can't do that when I go to the state board. He's like, okay, fine, fine, fine. But I'm like, could just for like 1 second of pain, could you not scream? He's like, whatever. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a party. It's not fun. But when you
No.
know what's going to happen from it and it's going to be permanent, then yeah, and it's the best feeling ever.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you in a licensed state?
So in Oregon, I have my license in Oregon, which is where I went to school.
Right.
But where I work in Vancouver, Washington, Washington is not currently a licensed state. And the reason why I work in Vancouver, Washington, which is just right over the border from Oregon
Yeah.
to Washington, is because when I went to school, the way our state was set up in Oregon to do both practical and written exams, the practical exam was scheduled for every like 3 or 4 months of the year. They don't accommodate like, oh, you're graduating in October.
Here's
Yeah, you
two.
can take your test in October. No, you take it in December because they had it scheduled for December,
Yep.
even though
Here
I
too.
was the only electrologist taking the test that time. Um, but that's just how they had it set up. So I was working at FedEx from like 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. with my toddler and going to school. And I was like, you know what? Even if I don't make any money, I'm just gonna go and open my business and just get up there and just start trying to build clientele. So I went to Washington to work instead of waiting to get my license in Oregon. And then, of course, I went and got my license in Oregon, thinking I'd come back to Oregon,
Yeah.
but my clientele had already built quite a bit. I wasn't like completely booked out, but I had a lot of clients, and I wasn't going to just be like,
Yeah.
peace, I'm going to go to Oregon, you find somebody else. I love my office, I love my landlords, my clients. So I stayed and haven't
Good.
haven't thought about moving since.
I'm sure. Yeah. No matter where you would be super busy. I'm sure of that. So you went to school. So was it like we hear 600 hours kind of thing?
Yeah, so Oregon also has a 600-hour program or 600-hour curriculum requirement. we currently don't have any schools in Oregon at all, or Washington, I believe. The school I went to in Portland, the Aesthetics Institute, was a great school. I think they just discontinued their program because either there wasn't enough people requesting it, or I'm not sure exactly why they discontinued offering electrolysis. I'm currently thinking about possibly opening a school in Oregon, a physical school that would complement some of the online education that I'm creating.
Sure. Yeah.
Part of what I am hoping to do before investing in doing that is change some of the curriculum requirements that Oregon has to modernize them and bring them more up to date, to kind of more reflect how California has their curriculum requirements. So we're working on it, but we'll see.
I went to school in Monterey, which was really lovely because I live in San Jose, so it was just like I would go down there 4 days a week and just I stay with one of my friends' house, and it's so beautiful in Monterey. It was so amazing. It was the
Yeah, I heard about that school.
Monterey Bay Institute of Electrolysis, and she's also been in the business. She and her husband have been in the business for 30 years. So, how do you get your clients to understand that it's not just going to be 3 appointments? Like
Yeah.
let's say they have like me, like I have like a goatee and I had a little beard hair, and and how do you explain to them it's going to take more than one, possibly more than one hair cycle?
Yeah. So part of this answer is actually really well explained in my consultation course
Hmm.
I have at pulsestorm.com. More what it's about is setting expectations. So I don't really usually go into like the details of how hair grows or
Anagen,
et cetera, et
catagen,
cetera. Yeah,
telogen.
I don't talk about that because when I do my consultations, that's not what I want my client to remember. I want them to know you can't pluck wax and tweezer anymore. I want them to
Thank you.
know you're probably going to spend 1 to 2 years with me. And if you skip treatments, it's going to be longer than that. There's certain things that like in the consultation, I want them to remember. And then as we go through treatments, they might start asking more about like the scientific process.
Sure.
But for a brand new client, trying to like have them understand how long the process takes, I usually say electrolysis takes 1 to 2 years of consistent treatments. The sooner we get through a first clearance, the better. So, some clients might get a first clearance their first 30-minute appointment with me.
Yeah.
Some
Hmm.
clients, it might take several hours of treatment broken up over the first couple months to get their first clearance. The sooner your first clearance is done and the sooner we can get you to stop shaving completely, the sooner you'll be done. But usually just letting them know that the first 1 to 2 years is what's going to take for treatments. And instead of telling them like this many treatments over this course of time, I usually give them a budget. And I say, most people that come and do electrolysis with me are going to spend anywhere between $100 to $300 a month. That's most people
Yep.
per month for the first couple months. And then after time, you're going to go further apart. Your appointments will become shorter, not as frequent, and your
Right.
budget will go down. So just knowing what to budget money wise seems to be more important for people to understand rather than how many appointments, how long are the appointments going to be. So what do you find? What do people usually like to hear from you?
Yeah, usually I do a little bit of discussion about how that it takes a plucked hair. If you plucked a hair yesterday and you see me today, I'm probably not going to be able to treat that plucked hair for 13 weeks. So I try
Yeah,
to
at
really,
least.
yeah, make sure they know, like, I know it's very satisfying to pluck the hair. I know, like, when you're in your car and you're on your way to a meeting, you're like, shit, you want to just get it. But I said, that's just going to make this go longer, which is great for my pocketbook, but not great for yours. So
Yeah.
it's like if you just leave it alone, I tell them you can go ahead and shave, but no sugaring, no waxing, nothing that takes the bulb out. That way, if you don't leave the bulb for me to treat, I can't kill the stem cells and the germ cells that are creating new hair. So, oh, I felt a whisker right now. So I tell them, just I got to leave it for me. And now it's cool. Now people are wearing masks, so they can grow their hairs out a little bit more and don't
Yeah.
feel so embarrassed at work or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's so hard to get it through their head. And even for me, when I was going to see her, she's like, "Are you plucking them?" I go, "Well, yeah, they're driving me crazy." And then I learned why I shouldn't pluck, but I just didn't understand in the very beginning. And I tell
Yeah.
my clients that there's no way to really know, but like I try to explain to them when I went, my first 2 appointments were half an hour to 45 minutes. And then, I was come every 2 weeks. And then my appointments were like about 20 minutes. And then that was like 2 more months. And then my appointments were like 5 minutes. And that took like a month. And now I go see her for maintenance.
Yep.
And I said, if you're like most people, you're probably going to come see me once a year or twice a year for the rest of your life for maintenance. you're just going to get those random little whiskers. Like sometimes hairs just go, hey, I've never grown a hair here. Let me pop one out real quick. And they just go,
Yeah.
oh, I wondered about that. Yeah. I'm like, get that long hair that's just like flapping in the wind, but it wasn't there yesterday. It's like some follicle decided today's my day. Today's
Yeah.
my day to shine.
It ate its Wheaties that morning.
Right? Oh, it's crazy how sometimes they'll grow. And usually the ones that grow really fast are the really, really thin hairs. I don't know if they're like dead hairs or tombstone hairs or whatever, but they're like super thin. And the body is so fascinating, right? Like all the different things it grows, like skin tags. And
I know.
my doctor told me once skin tags are just skin gone crazy.
I've heard skin tags are more due to friction. So
Oh,
obviously there is a hormonal component for some of them, but a lot of
sure.
times you'll find them under the underarms or on the
Right.
neck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it's where the skin is rubbing and then it
Mm-hmm.
creates that little tag. So, but you can treat them with advanced electrolysis.
Not in California.
Not in California, but in some states and in Washington, it's not even electrology. It's you need to have an esthetician's license to do advanced electrolysis or thermolysis treatments. So it just depends on the licensing.
Don't tell anybody, but I removed a cherry angioma on my own hand
Well, you
with
can
my
do whatever you
machine.
want to yourself, you know.
Oh, it's been there forever. And I was like,
Yeah,
I'm doing it. It was like so easy, but I was like, oh, I would love to do skin tags, but I'm not allowed. So,
I
and also
know.
for me, I want to do the what's it called? Telegenista, I have
Telangiectasia, but I just call them broken capillaries because
yes, I have
let
a
me
bunch
tell
of
you, I
broken
can't
capillaries right
remember how to
around
say that
here.
word a lot. Yeah, it's
I
really
wish we could
fun.
do here. Yeah, I'm sure it must be very satisfying to see the little broken capillaries go away, right?
Yes, and I love those treatments because instead of having somebody that needs to commit to, a year to 2 years of treatments, they're coming in, once for the first treatment and then a couple months later if they need a second treatment. So it's really a great treatment to add on to electrolysis hair removal because you can fit in new clients. Whereas like hair removal clients, I'm currently on a wait list that I'm not even accepting names for until later this year because there's just too many people. But I can fit advanced electrolysis clients into the gaps.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, when you're doing your, I know you said you have a class about this, and I should probably take it, but when you're talking to a new client, do you talk to them at all about how electrolysis actually works?
I don't bring it up unless they do. And if they do, what I usually give is kind of a short and sweet answer that they can understand. So if they say, well, how does the hair get removed? I let them know I use a sterile metal probe, also called a needle, and I insert it into the hair follicle. I apply electric current to the follicle. So that if you use the word electric current, it applies for both, chemical and also thermolysis. Apply electric current to the follicle, which treats the inside of the follicle, coagulating tissue, killing stem cells, and then remove the hair from the follicle. And I do that every single hair that you want removed, so one at a time. A lot
Yep.
of times by explaining it's one hair at a time, people kind of understand, well, this is why it takes so much time. This is why it's not like a 15-minute treatment each time I
Right.
come in. It's one hair at a time. So super simple answer. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just about the mechanics of the treatment. Because when you go and get like Botox done or
No, they don't tell you.
facials
Right.
or whatever, like they don't sit there and go, well, the neurotoxin is going to be injected into this muscle and over 2 weeks it's going to,
Yeah.
they give you like the basic details so that you can understand the safety and the health aspects. So that's what I think is most important about consultations is being concise and setting your expectations both for your clients and then also having your clients understand what their expectations should be as well, which is why like my consultation course is a little different than like the standard school course. Like,
Right.
yeah, of course you're going to go over health information and stuff like that, but let's talk about how to prepare clients for treatment too, instead of just making sure that they're good candidates.
I do a lot of talking about before they come, try not to be hungover for one thing, try not to have too much wine the night before. Try, of course, always everything in life is better if you're hydrated, and that
Yeah.
includes electrolysis, and just, like if you come in all hungover and all, like not lacking sleep and whatever, it's usually not going to be a good appointment. We can still do it, but it's going to be more like fighting it than it's really like, I just love it. And I'm sure you have the same feeling when it's just like, it all just glides out and it's like they don't even feel a thing. I'm like, that's what we want. It's just like,
Yeah.
I killed it. It's dead. It's most
I
likely not
actually
ever coming back.
I had a client yesterday. I usually only work Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, but I've been trying to just pick up a couple extra days to make sure all my new clients are getting enough treatment and they're not having to wait a couple months. So I had a client yesterday, and 2 times while I was working on her, I caught myself just like daydreaming. And then like
Mm.
I usually check in on super sensitive areas like every so often just to make sure people are doing okay. And she was sitting there like a rock. And I told her, I was like, I forgot I was even working on a human because you're just so still and you're not even making a peep. So
Right.
like a couple times I'm like, oh, okay, wake
Hello.
up.
One time when I have a client who has PCOS, and we would do her right cheek on Tuesday and her left cheek on Thursday, and she was like, "Crystal, are you having a climax?" Because I was like, "Oh yeah." Mm. When they just slide out, I'm like, "Yes." She didn't even notice that, and it'll be big and fat and has like all that. I can't even think of the word now. The sheath
Yep.
and the bulb, and I'm like, "Oh God, that's gonna be good." It's most likely never coming back. Of course, possibility, but it's really rare if you get a really good release, right? And
Oh
it's you
yeah.
got it and you've got it killed. And yeah. Have you ever
You should
had
get excited
experience?
about hairs though, because if you're not getting excited about hairs, you're in
I
the
love it.
wrong industry. So
I've only had it have only had it happen one time where the next hair that was growing in to replace the hair what came out with the top hair.
that's
I was
awesome.
like, I
Did
want
you
to
take a
photograph
picture
this.
of it?
I couldn't. I was like, it was so just it happened so fast. I was like, oh, I think so. I remember them talking about it at school, and I was like, and I think I tried to take a photograph on the cotton, but by that time the sheath was already kind of dehydrated, or was already kind of,
Yeah.
not. It
I
was so
have these
satisfying though.
macro clip-on lenses that go
Uh,
on like onto the phone so you can
oh
like
yeah,
zoom in
I need
super
to get one of
close.
those. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I sell them at pulsetherm.com. They're 10
Okay,
bucks.
cool. I'll
Yeah,
check it
free
out.
shipping too. So, but
Okay,
yeah,
sweet.
I keep those on my cart so that if I find a really cool hair, in fact, I just took a
Perfect.
picture of an ombre gray, like a
Oh yeah.
naturally ombre gray hair. Yeah, I geek out about hair too.
I
So
notice a lot of silver hairs have the ombre thing to it, but yeah, it's interesting when a hair has two tones. So I use a Clairblend machine, so my machine can do all three modalities, and
yeah.
I tend to work a lot in with blend, but I do have some African American clients, and I have some clients who are I think one is Ethiopian. Anyway, so I use a lot of straight galvanic on their hair, and
Oh,
one
interesting.
of my black female clients has PCOS too. So I usually almost all I tried a lot of different things, but now I think I'm pretty locked into just using straight galvanic on her PCOS hair.
Nice. Yeah. It's not often that you hear that people are using straight galvanic, but I think it's a really cool modality. And I have a multi needle machine, but I never use it.
Oh yeah, I
um,
saw those in school. Those things are trippy. Um,
they're very strange looking, but very cool.
they look a little Frankensteinish. Like, wow.
Yes.
Because at the
Yeah, they
school where
do.
I went, they had several of them. And they have some new ones now too that look more modern. But yeah, it seems like so much time to me to sit there and do all the insertions and then buzz it. But I don't know.
I
It's
had trouble figuring out how to keep the probe inside the hair follicle and not accidentally knock it out while I'm trying to
right
insert all the
while you're
other
doing
ones.
others.
And I know there's tips and techniques. I
I'm
just
sure
don't
there
have
are.
the time to sit down and try to figure it out.
So most of your clients, are you working on them for an hour?
I have anyone that goes, I have 15-minute clients and I have 3-hour clients. 3 hours is the max I do now. And I only very rarely will do a treatment like that anymore. So usually 2 hours is the max that I do, but they're all throughout all those different times. I don't set anybody to any specific time except for the first appointment. Everybody
Yeah,
gets scheduled for 30 minutes.
right.
Some people don't take 30 minutes, they go to a 15-minute appointment. So obviously we only charge for 15, but even if they need a 2-hour appointment to clear themselves, I work on 30 minutes so they can see how it feels. And I can see how
Yeah.
their skin reacts before I decide, okay, you need this much time. But yeah, it's everyone's all over the board as far as
That's
timing of
kind of
appointments.
that's kind of me too. It's like I think there's a big difference between my business and Sarah's business, and Sarah's business is very mature, and I think her clients are very mature, and a lot of them are in maintenance mode. So I'll be in here and I'll be with one client for an hour, hour 15 with the, chit chat, clean up beforehand, after, and I would hear her. She goes like 3 or 4 people come in that hour because
Yeah.
most of her clients are just in maintenance mode. A lot of my clients they need, the hours worth of work, the first few times. And they're just beginning this process along with me. So it's like, I noticed that I have a lot more of the 1 hours or the half an hours where she has people are coming out 5-10 minutes, bam, they're out. And
Yeah.
cash, they pay cash, $40 each time, $60 each time. I'm like,
Yeah.
dang, they'll 15 people in one day. I'm like, how do you do that? But she loves that.
That's a lot of people. Yeah.
Oh,
Sometimes I work 12-hour days, and I think the most I usually have ever had is like 10 or 12 clients. But that's a lot still. 15 is a lot.
and you're trying, you were saying like I watched one of your videos. In your video, you were talking about this thing called Pulse Therm. Is
Yeah.
that Thermolysis?
Yeah, so I named the company, so the new education company, I just named it Pulse Therm just
Okay.
after the fact that I like to use quick thermolysis, sometimes known as flash thermolysis,
Yeah.
and I like to use pulses of it. So I was like, what's a cool name? Pulse Therm.
I like it. Yeah.
And, electrolysis, we have all these different modalities, and it's good to know the historic significance between, galvanic and thermolysis in the blend, and it's good to know how to do those modalities. But I definitely think once people start to find either modality that they love the most, it's okay to just do one, and it's okay to do all three, and it's okay to do
Yeah.
different ones for different
Whatever you.
clients. And
Yep.
yeah, it's just like any other aesthetics profession. Like, you're going to find what works for you and what's best
Yeah.
for your clients, and you can decide what to do. So yeah, I love doing quick thermolysis. It's pretty much the only modality I use for all of my clients. But with Pulse Therm online education, will be talking about different modalities, especially if we open the school in Oregon, because it would be required by curriculum to learn all of those modalities.
I find myself using thermolysis mostly when I have people who are their hair is very fair and their skin is very fair. So like a person with blonde hair and like a blonde mustache, and it's not just vellus hair, it's like it's a little bit coarse. And so I find that the flash or the thermolysis works best on really light skin and really light hair clients. But I really haven't tried it on a lot of other people, other than just doing the blend. But just because I try to make sure that when they leave, the things aren't too red. But I found that the thermolysis works well that way on my clients with like a more of a blonde mustache, and then I find too that the straight galvanic works really good on those crazy deep, those gray hairs that don't want to leave. That also can help those hairs. Those hairs are bare to get out, as you know. I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a few of those. Oh, the gray hairs just don't want to leave. They're like, no, we're staying. We're not going.
They've
Not
dug
moving.
themselves deeper.
Totally. So do you have any other electrologists that work in your office, or just you?
Just me. Yep,
Oh, that's
just
nice.
me a couple days a week, which I don't like sharing spaces, so it works best for me.
Yeah, this will be an interesting experiment for the two of us. And then, are there other tools? Like, what kind of tools do you use as far as your lighting? Do you use
Yeah.
loops or not?
I'll have to film like an office tour one of these days
Sure,
and kind
that'd
of
be
show
cool.
people. Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I love oroscopic loops. I recently just got my 5.5 times loops at 18-inch working distance in, and it's going to take me a while to break them in because I've been using my 3.5 times loops with 12-inch working distance. So I'm still kind of hunched over at this point,
Yeah.
and I really want to make sure I'm getting up and sitting further up,
Part. Right.
but it just takes a while to break in that difference. I have a bed from, I can't remember the name of the company, but it's a bed that can be in a seated position and
Cool.
tilt back. And then you can also flatten it out, and it tilts all these different ways. The legs themselves go like this if you want them
Oh,
to. But yeah, it's an electric bed, which I really highly recommend. I started out with just a basic folding massage table, and that killed my back, because you need your clients to move to the position that you need them to be.
yep.
So if you're just starting out, do what you can afford. But once you can buy an electric table, do it. You
Right.
can sometimes find them on Craigslist for cheaper too. What else do I like to use? I use my Silhouette Tone ST250, and I primarily just use a manual entry for quick thermolysis. So I don't use the presets usually.
Mm-hmm.
I put in my own settings, and I got that from Prestige Electrolysis Supply.
Oh, I love
And
I
then
buy all my supplies from them. I love working with them.
I absolutely love them.
Yeah, they're
They're one of
great.
the best electrolysis suppliers I have found, and their customer service is like top notch, which is really important
Amazing.
these days.
And their website
Um,
is like modern.
yeah, yeah, and I think communication in any business, whether it's electrolysis or supplies or whatever, is really important, and they really do a good job of
They're
communicating with
amazing.
their clients. So,
Hmm.
but lighting. So this is
Yes.
where my video tour is going to come in handy. I have like the most random electrolysis lighting because everyone's talking about like, oh, we have our on the loops, the little spotlight,
Right.
and like I
Yeah.
don't like the weight it adds to my glasses because I have a sensitive nose, and so I don't like things pressing on my nose. And then other people have like the roller lights, and I started with that. I can't stand it because it gets in the way, and I trip over things, and the light was falling over, and so I had my husband attach a TV stand that has like these joints so you can where's my hands, there we go, like the joints bend like this, and then I attached PVC piping and a ring light to that, and it just comes out
Oh,
over my head, and I can adjust the angle. I can also turn the light a little bit to shadow hairs.
yeah.
And then I also have one more light, and I generally only use it for leg work or genital work because it reaches over to the other half of my table, and it's up on the wall, and it's from Newer like lighting. I think it's a pretty common lighting company. I just got it off Amazon, but it's
Hmm.
basically just a light that sits over the other half of my table and
Interesting.
lights the area a little bit
Yeah.
better than the reach my other light does.
We need a tour for sure. This sounds very
Yeah.
interesting. Sounds like your husband's very handy too.
Oh yeah, I have like a pile of stuff that I need him to still install in my office, but it's
I love it.
enticing him to come up there on the weekend, and
Oh
then
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Now, what is your best referral source for your new clients? How do most people find you?
So while I was still accepting new clients, basically referrals from my current clients,
Hmm.
and that just builds over time. So, if you want to put a referral reward in place, you can. I never did because it's too much to keep track of for me. I try to give back to my clients every so often with like
Right.
giveaways and
Yeah,
whatnot, but yeah, referral codes is just too much for me. So,
I agree.
but
Yeah.
most people refer, and I usually have them come in and say, "My sister's going to contact you," or
Yeah.
"My aunt and mom want to come in and get this done," and that's probably the most common right now. But other than that, it's Google. People Google and see your name, and they contact you.
Yeah. For me too. And then also Yelp. And I know everybody hates Yelp. I
I
love to
know.
hate.
I never set it up because I was too afraid of it. So
I love to hate on them. What I usually say is like, Yelp is not my favorite bed partner. Everybody has to be in bed with them, but there's other people I'd much rather be in bed with than Yelp. But Yelp is so highly optimized for search. So I just went ahead
yeah,
and claimed my business on Yelp even before I opened. And just to kind of, so it would start getting, again, growing the search engine optimization even before I even could open my doors legally, before I even had my license. So I just thought, you know what, I know it's going to be my name. I know where I'm going to be. I knew what my address was going to be. I just had to pass my state board exam. And so I started on Yelp right away. And I always tell people, don't freak out if you get a negative review, because you know what? Nobody's perfect. And it looks human if you have somebody say something that, they didn't enjoy about your service. And don't stress out about it, because if you have 16, 5-star reviews and one-star review, nobody cares. And sometimes the one-star review people, they start to look like they are like a Karen,
yeah.
and like people are like, whatever, this person
I
probably wouldn't.
completely feel you.
I don't
I have
stress.
my own 1-star review, and when people read that, they know they know that it is the person who left the review. They're a
Hmm.
particular kind of person.
Yeah, it's not you, it's them. So most of us can see through that when we're reading reviews and stuff. So I think, yeah, it's like nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Um, how when people ask you how to prepare for when your clients ask you how to prepare, what do you tell them to prepare for their first appointment?
First appointment, immediately stop waxing, tweezing, plucking, nothing pulling the hair out. Make sure you're hydrated, not Olympic athlete hydrated, but
Right.
adequately hydrated. I use the word adequate. Like, I don't need
Right.
you to be like super stellar hydrated. Just make sure you're not just drinking a glass of
Dehydrate.
wine before you come in. So,
Yeah.
um, and I tell them too about hydration. If they are a normal hydrated person and they have one day where they did come in like super dehydrated, they're going to regret their choice and they'll
Yep,
feel it themselves, the
they
difference it
will.
makes between pain sensation. And then also sometimes settings have to be changed if they're dehydrated. So it's not enjoyable to be dehydrated. So
Don't do it.
hydration, and then also at least 3 to 4 days of hair growth. I used to be more lax and be like, oh, a couple days of hair growth. But what I found is that depending on the client, everyone's hair grows differently. Everyone's type of hair grows differently. So if you have a coarse hair, then yeah, maybe it only takes 2 days for it to be long enough for me to be able to treat it. But if you're
Right.
treating fine hair, that's going to be a long time for that
Yep.
hair to grow, for me to be able to easily see it. And then also my clients that have curvy follicles, my clients that are, whether they're African American or higher on the fit scale and have very coarse curly hair, those hairs grow even slower. And so my clients that come in with 5 to 7 days of growth with that type of hair, it looks the same length as clients that come in with 2 to 3 days of growth for a straight hair follicle. So making sure that the hair is just an adequate length versus how many days they're growing in. And I always say half a grain of rice
Oh, that's a
is
good
the perfect length. Yeah. Because everyone,
way to say it.
rice is all different lengths, but everyone can think of a grain of rice and they know, okay, if
Right.
as long as it's half that length, we're good.
I
So,
think too, for us as practitioners, it's easier if they're not teeny tiny. I can do a lot more hair if there's more hair for me to see and reach with my tweezers. So if I'm trying to get in there, it's teeny tiny, I'm going to move slower and it's just more work and it's harder on my body. I'm trying to, but
yeah.
have you noticed that pubic hair grows slow?
Yes. But I also, if anyone starts that project, I almost immediately tell them you're going to need to stop shaving completely. No
Yeah,
shaving, no shaving at all. I want you to only trim it with like a trimmer with a guard on. Never shave to your skin again if you want to get through this fast. And
good
I
advice.
yeah, when people take that advice, it goes so much smoother, so much faster. You can see the results much smoother and faster too.
I'm getting a lot of clients that want before the break, wanting underarm hair removed. I love those projects because it's so fun to see the whole underarm get cleared. I'm like, oh, and
Yes.
usually it's darker hair, and it's like I like to take the before and after. I'm like, oh, it's just the best. And they're
Yes, I
they're
love
easy because
underarms.
and they're coarser hairs, right? So they're funner to work with, and they're just easier. Everything's easier, and yeah. I have a couple different clients that we were trying to do the clear it and then wait 13 weeks, clear it, wait 13 weeks. We're trying that. And then we have other clients that want just kind of like every 10 days. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just trying to track them all just so I can see, how it goes.
Do
But
you have do you have your every 13-week clients, do you have them stop shaving?
yes.
Yeah, that's super important. And by doing these little tests, you're going to be able to see what the most optimized way of removing the hair is. And that's
Yeah.
how I got to the point where I start telling clients, once you feel comfortable enough to stop shaving to the skin, it's going to be important that you immediately take that step. You can shave as much as you want and it's not going to like necessarily hurt your results, but it means you're going to have a little bit shorter appointments more consistently versus bigger appointments in the beginning that get shorter and smaller and further apart sooner, which for most people that are attacking a hair problem, they're like, I want it all gone as soon as possible.
Fast as
So
possible.
if you can get the bulk of it done sooner, wouldn't you do that if you felt comfortable enough to do it? And it's all about
Right.
just educating the client,
For sure.
talking about why it's important to possibly stop shaving, how it could better their treatments.
I wish our industry had like a lobbyist that could lobby for us. I wish our industry had like people out there educating, like, okay, I can run ads, you can run ads, but like we need like somebody at the higher level to be like, here's what electrolysis is, here's why it's
PSAs.
great. Yes.
I think that too. It's like you're reading my mind. I was just talking to my husband about this last night, and I was like, well, if someone just paid for a billboard and put it up on I-5 and it just said, electrolysis is the only method of permanent hair removal, do you know
Yes.
how many people would know about electrolysis at that point?
It
Because
would
they
help
go and
so much.
Google.
Right.
So, yeah, I
Some people don't
completely
even know it
agree.
exists. They're looking for, they have PCOS or the PCOS industry seems to be really good at educating people about electrolysis because they know it's the only permanent hair removal. And PCOS clients that's a whole other bag of worms, and I love working with them, but it's going to be, a lot of years together, which I love too, but I feel for them because I know it's going to be a lot of money and a lot of
Yeah.
tears, because I know it already causes them a lot of tears. But yeah, just like that, people just don't know. Not enough people know about it. When I tell people what I do, I just say permanent hair removal now, because if I say electrolysis, people think I'm an electrician. Like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
there's electricity involved, but I'm not an electrician. But yeah, there's just not enough information out. And like you said, there's not enough schools. We only have one school in Northern California, and there's 40 million people in this state. There's two schools in Southern California, so I think there's three in the whole state of California. And I
Yeah.
think there's something like 1,500 maybe licensed electrologists in the whole state, and not all of us are necessarily working. So, I mean, not even because of the pandemic. I'm just saying some people have their license and they renew it, but they're not even practicing anymore. So 1,500 for 40
Yeah.
million people is not enough.
Oh yeah. No, I think I think in Oregon it's less than 100 licensed electrologists. I think last time I checked, it was something crazy like that, which is
It's such an amazing trade to
crazy.
get into. It's really, and it's so, like I said, because I love being with my clients. I love getting to know them, and it's like they almost can become friends in a way, like they all check in on me during the pandemic, or
Yeah.
earthquakes. Are you okay? Like, it just, because it is so personal. Even if you try
Yeah.
to kind of have some boundaries, it still just you become very familiar with one another because you spent so much time together.
Yes, for sure.
Definitely. So, is there anything that you think people should really know about electrolysis? Like, if they're a person who needs hair removed, or if there's a person who wants to get into this business, like anything that you think is really super important for people to know?
Um, yeah. So as far as clients that are looking for electrolysis, I think the most important thing is find somebody that you feel comfortable working with. As far as we were just talking about, like there's not enough electrologists, which can be really hard to deal with as far as, well, I found the only person that is accepting clients and who I, could get an appointment with. But if you don't feel comfortable with that person, or if you don't feel like something's right, not, if you feel like something's wrong and it's not exactly right, don't keep going to somebody who doesn't make you feel comfortable, who isn't doing the right things. Make sure you find somebody that you are able to trust with your electrolysis treatments. And maybe that means waiting a while, or maybe that means traveling. There are a lot of clients that travel to either different states or several hours driving and do more electrolysis in one sitting versus shorter appointments. But find an electrologist that has good results, before sticking with somebody who doesn't have good results. And then as far as people getting into the industry, just try to learn as much as you possibly can. I'm going to be trying to make that beginner electrolysis course, which I'm hoping will be in the next year or two, which I know is a long time to wait, especially when you're excited to learn something and do something.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's tons of schools out there. California Electrology Academy, I love them. If the Aesthetics Institute of Portland was still open, I would totally recommend them. But there's lots of other electrology schools where you can start learning online, and then do hands-on training in person, which I'm hoping is what Pulse Therm will become, where we have
Yeah.
online theory and then some training in person. But start researching now and reach out and ask questions. Go get electrolysis done yourself so that you can see
Yes.
how things feel. I personally have been to a ton of different electrologists, and I enjoy getting electrolysis myself. I know how it feels. It's good to see how different practitioners work, because
Mm-hmm.
no one does electrolysis the same way.
Nope.
I say this all the time. I say electrolysis is both an art form and a science. So there's scientific facts backing it up, but
Yep.
it is literally an art form where your practitioner is, treating you with techniques that they either evolved themselves or learned from their mentors, or a combination of both. So you're not going to get the same treatment from the same electrologist or different electrologists.
I think all the people that graduated from the school I went to in Monterey Bay, I think we all have a lot of things in common, but then of course we all go off to learn our own either good habits or bad habits, but we definitely get at the same kind of basic level of education. And I was so grateful to go to school there, because her and her husband have both been teaching and doing electrolysis forever and ever. Yeah, soak it all in. And then it's really cool too, because I think the way we met is through a Facebook page, right, where it's like 1,000 different electrologists from all over the world. And
Yes, Electrology International. It's a great
yeah,
page. Yeah.
and it's so great because electrologists are happy to share with other electrologists, their tricks and tips and their favorite products and stuff. It's nice to be in an industry where people don't feel like they have to keep all their secrets to themselves.
Yeah. And that's one tip of advice for anyone that's currently electrologist is You know, sometimes we get jaded in our industries, but I think it's really important to remain positive and try to be helpful as much as possible. And if you can't be helpful, then don't. Yeah, exactly. then
I agree.
don't. It's not needed. You know, I remember one specific incident where I was searching for help with modality and settings, and I just got like some of the least helpful responses, and it it took a day or two before someone messaged on my post and was like, try this. And I did, and it worked. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's all I needed was just somebody to say, try this. Like I don't need any other negative feedback when I'm trying to figure something out. So
Right. Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
yeah.
So tell everybody again how to find your website where you're teaching people how to get more of electrolysis techniques.
Yeah, go to pulsetherm.com. That landing page will take you to both education and also my electrolysis boutique. The boutique has BLT numbing cream, which I'm a distributor for. They're amazing, and you can get a free sample if you're an electrologist or esthetician and want to try it out. There's electrolysis clothing, because we don't have enough gear and swag for our industry. So I'm creating some new electrolysis tees and sweatshirts and socks and things that we can like rep our industry and have fun with electrolysis at home. And some other kind of just fun little products are there. But yeah, pulsetherm.com for both education and electrolysis boutique.
So just PULSE therm THERM.com.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Audrey. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate all of your information, and you're always so available and willing to share your expertise.
Thank you. I appreciate you reaching out, and I had so much fun talking. Like we need to do this more often, and I already can think of like a million other things I want to talk with you about. So
okay, cool.
I'm
Me too.
excited.
See you again.
All right.
Thanks, Audrey. Talk to you soon.
Bye.